The terrifying truth behind why a narcissist is desperately waiting for you to break no contact. Welcome back, survivor. Today we plunge into one of the most psychologically charged moments in any toxic relationship. The aftermath of going no contact with a narcissist. This is the stage where silence becomes a battlefield and where your healing threatens the very foundation of their fragile ego. Psychologists often note that when a narcissist first encounters no contact, they retreat into tactical silence, waiting like a hunter who believes the prey will circle back. They count on your humanity, your empathy, your guilt, your desire for closure. They assume you are still orbiting around their emotional gravity. What they do not expect is resilience. And the moment they sense you're not returning, something inside them destabilizes. Their facade cracks. Their sense of control begins to wither. While every survivor's journey is different, there is always a turning point, a moment when the narcissist realizes their grip is slipping. Clinicians call this narcissistic destabilization, a psychological state where the loss of control feels like annihilation. Narcissists are built upon illusions of power, and when those illusions collapse, they feel invisible, irrelevant, erased. But make no mistake, they do not surrender quietly. Before long, they reach for their most familiar weapon, charm. Psychologists describe narcissistic charm as a form of emotional bait, meticulously crafted to trigger nostalgia rather than love. So suddenly you might receive a random photo from years ago, a joke only the two of you once shared, or a seemingly accidental encounter that isn't accidental at all. Unlike the explosive love bombing of early courtship, this charm is colder, more deliberate, designed to disarm your defenses and make you doubt your decision to detach. But beneath the surface, nothing has changed. What you're seeing is not the return of tenderness. It is merely a performance, a mask stitched together from old memories. When charm falters, they escalate. As many psychologists explain, narcissists view relationships as games of pursuit, where losing is intolerable and winning equals validation. So even the chase itself becomes exciting for them, a twisted form of entertainment built upon your vulnerability. One survivor captured this tactic perfectly. Empty worries, glamorous photos, flirty snapshots. She worked so hard to reel me in. But charm is only the opening act. Soon comes the seduction of closure. Narcissists weaponize the word closure because psychologists say it targets two universal human needs: understanding and emotional resolution. They may claim, "We owe each other a proper ending," or "You deserve an explanation." It appears mature, thoughtful, even healing. But with narcissists, closure is never genuine. It is a breach in the door you closed, a chance to gather intel, test your boundaries, and slip back into your emotional landscape. They might admit small faults to appear sincere. Strategic humility, nothing more. The goal isn't peace, it's access. Psychologists repeatedly warn that genuine closure does not come from the one who caused the wound. It comes from within, from choosing yourself, your future, your sanity. Taking their bait only reopens trauma loops and strengthens their psychological leverage. Moving forward requires turning away from illusions and toward your own life. As you shift focus toward growth, new routines, meaningful conversations, supportive communities, your nervous system begins to heal. You start building emotional scaffolding that no longer depends on their approval. Psychologists call this self-reconstruction, the gradual process of reclaiming identity after emotional manipulation. Meanwhile, narcissists experience your progress as an injury. To them, your healing is an insult, your independence a threat. Research shows that narcissists suffer a profound fear of being forgotten, what therapists call narcissistic abandonment panic. They rely on external praise like oxygen, and when you detach, they feel themselves fading. This is why they return, sometimes months later, at the exact moment you feel whole again. They cannot fathom a world where you move on, especially with someone new. Seeing you with another person strikes directly at their most fragile psychological wound, the belief that they are easily replaceable. That image, your smile, your laughter, your peace, feels like a dagger. Their ego shrinks, and so they lash out with bitterness, envy, or performative indifference. Many psychologists explain that narcissists process jealousy not as sadness, but as narcissistic injury, which quickly mutates into hostility or desperate attempts to regain dominance. Some may mock your new relationship. Why does this new person get all the luck? Others attempt to pull your attention back to them, trying to reinsert themselves into the narrative. They cannot comprehend that life continues without them, that the world does not rearrange itself around their desires. But you know better now. Their anger, their theatrics, their manipulations reveal only the fragility beneath their cruelty. Psychologists emphasize that understanding this truth does not excuse their behavior, but frees you from internalizing it. Their reactions are about their inadequacies, not your worth. So share your experiences, survivor. Tell your truths. Let the community of those who have walked this path remind you that you are not alone. Whether your words are raw, angry, or unfiltered, there is power in naming what once silenced you. And as you continue healing, remember this final truth. You owe narcissists nothing, not closure, not conversation, not one more second of your peace. Your silence is not cruelty. It is self-respect. If this video or message resonated with you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with others who may need this reminder. And above all, survivor, put yourself first. You earn that right through fire. But before we conclude this chapter of the story, we must address one of the most psychologically devastating stages of the narcissist campaign. Their stealthy destruction, that quiet, corrosive force they deploy once they realize that direct access to you has been cut off. Psychologists often describe this phase as covert aggression, a form of manipulation that operates in the dark rather than in open conflict. The narcissist has learned that you will no longer respond to their direct overtures. So now their strategies slither sideways, targeting the fabric of your life instead of your inbox. This silent sabotage, as many therapists call it, works like a slow leak of poison into your social ecosystem. They begin planting subtle seeds of doubt about your stability or integrity. You'll notice it not through confrontation, but through the sudden shift in the tone of people who once knew you well. Friends who once laughed freely with you now ask, "Are you okay?" Colleagues suddenly check in on you with concern that doesn't align with your current emotional state. The narcissist has weaponized ambiguity, implying you're breaking down, hinting at private struggles, whispering just enough to make others wonder. And psychologically, this works because humans are wired to believe repeated narratives, even when evidence is thin. By eroding the assumptions people carry about you, the narcissist isolates you socially, hoping that loneliness will push you back toward them for clarity or validation. Of course, they also masterfully weave themselves into the role of the injured party. Psychologists call this victim narcissism, a phenomenon where the abuser reframes themselves as the betrayed, misunderstood, or abandoned figure. They sigh heavily in conversations, suggest they have no idea what they did wrong, and behave as though your decision to go no contact is an irrational outburst rather than a boundary born from self-preservation. Their goal isn't healing, it's perception control. They want to script the narrative so convincingly that even you begin to wonder whether you overreacted. But beneath the performance lies a deeper truth. Narcissists appeal to sympathy because they cannot appeal to accountability. Accountability threatens their fragile internal world. Sympathy reinforces it. Therapists frequently remind survivors that narcissists do not seek reconciliation, they seek reinstatement. Your empathy is the lever, your heart the mechanism. Once their victim performance loses steam, they pivot to a more psychologically invasive tactic, emotional baiting. Messages sent into the void, updates about their lives, photos designed to stir curiosity. Each one is a hook. Psychologists note that even negative attention serves the narcissist's needs. Irritation, anger, confusion, all demonstrate that they still have emotional influence over you. Every reaction confirms that they still matter, soothing their chronic fear of emotional insignificance. This is why staying silent is not just a boundary, it is a psychological power move. But silence often pushes them into desperation. When pity fails, manipulation escalates. They turn to guilt, emotional blackmail, grand proclamations of suffering. How could you leave? How could you do this to your family? How could you abandon people who care? Therapists identify this as guilt induction, a tactic rooted in exploiting your empathy and moral values. They know you strive to be fair, compassionate, responsible. So they recast your boundaries as cruelty and their abuse as your misunderstanding. It is a distortion so twisted that many survivors describe feeling mentally pulled inside out. Yet your responsibility ends where their manipulation begins. Their emotions belong to them, not to you. And many psychologists emphasize that refusing guilt traps is a sign of psychological maturity, not coldness. You aren't abandoning anyone. You are simply refusing to be consumed. When guilt doesn't work, narcissists escalate once again to the most venomous tactic in their arsenal: full-scale character assassination. In psychology, this is classified as projective identification, where the narcissist projects their flaws onto you and then behaves as if you genuinely embody those traits. Suddenly, you are labeled controlling, unstable, dishonest, even abusive. It is not enough for them to harm your reputation. They attempt to rewrite your entire relational history. They cast themselves as the wounded martyr, bravely enduring your imagined cruelty. And the tragedy is that some will believe them because narcissists have perfected the art of persuasive performance. But remember this: the smear campaign is never about truth, only control. It is an attempt to draw you back into their orbit, so you feel compelled to defend yourself. Psychologists warn that responding is exactly what the narcissist wants. Engagement gives them ammunition. Silence starves the narrative. Your character will outlive their lies. It always does. Still, some narcissists will recycle these tactics endlessly, looping through charm, sabotage, guilt, and slander as though trapped in a psychological carousel. Their mindset is cyclical, not linear. That is why your protection depends not on confronting them, but on outgrowing them. The path forward is internal: rebuilding your self-esteem, connecting with supportive people, grounding yourself in therapy, establishing a sense of identity independent of their influence. Healing isn't instantaneous, it is an unfolding process. But with each step, you become less reachable by their chaos. And here is the truth psychologists emphasize above all: once you reach a certain level of clarity, strength, and self-worth, the narcissist loses their ability to manipulate you. Completely, permanently, you become, in their eyes, something terrifying, a person they cannot control. If you're ready to understand what they do next after losing the final shred of influence they had over you, then the next video is already waiting on your screen. And before you go, hit that like button. It truly helps the channel reach more survivors who need this message. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, your healing is the one thing the narcissist could never anticipate.